Taiho had been on the Veloth ship for 3 days when he first noticed something was wrong in his quarters. It started small. A food packet he was sure he had left on the table was now on the floor. His blanket, which he always folded in the morning, was slightly moved. The air recycler made strange sounds at night, like something was breathing near it. At first, Taiho thought he was tired. Being the only human on an alien diplomatic ship was stressful. The Veloth were tall beings with pale blue skin and 4 arms. They moved without sound and rarely spoke. When they did speak, their voices were cold and flat. They looked at Taiho like he was an insect that had crawled into their home. But Taiho was good at his job. Earth needed this alliance. The Veloth controlled trade routes that could help humanity reach the outer galaxies. So Taiho smiled when they looked at him with disgust. He bowed when they walked past him without greeting. He ate the strange food they gave him and said thank you. On the 4th night, Taiho could not sleep. He lay in his small bed and stared at the ceiling. The room was dark, except for a small blue light near the door. Everything was quiet. Then he heard it, a soft sound, like a small animal moving in the corner. Taiho sat up slowly. His heart beat faster. He had been told this ship was completely safe. No dangerous creatures. No threats. But something was in his room. He reached for the light control on the wall. His fingers touched the panel. The light came on, and Taiho saw her. A small figure sat in the corner behind his storage box. She was pressed against the wall, her knees pulled up to her chest. Her skin was pale blue like the other Veloth, but lighter. Almost white. She had 2 arms, not 4. Her eyes were huge and dark, like pools of black water. She was looking at Taiho with pure terror. She was a child. Taiho did not move. He barely breathed. The child was shaking so hard he could see it from across the room. "Hello," Taiho said softly. He used his gentlest voice. "It is okay. I will not hurt you." The child did not speak. She pressed herself harder against the wall, as if she was trying to disappear into it. Taiho slowly lowered himself to the floor. He sat down and crossed his legs. He made himself small. He remembered what his mother taught him when he was young. When something is scared, you make yourself less scary. "My name is Taiho," he said. "I am from Earth. Do you know Earth?" The child's eyes moved to his face. She still did not speak, but she was looking at him now instead of looking for escape. "I have been eating your food, yes?" Taiho smiled a little. I wondered where my snacks were going. Something changed in the child's face. It was small, but Taiho saw it. The fear was still there, but now there was something else. Confusion, maybe. Like she did not understand why he was not yelling. "Are you hungry?" Taiho asked. He moved very slowly and reached into his pocket. He pulled out a small bar of pressed fruit. It was one of the few Earth foods he had brought with him. "This is from my planet. It is sweet. Do you want to try?" He placed the bar on the floor and pushed it gently toward her. Then he moved his hand back and waited. The child looked at the food. She looked at Taiho. She looked at the food again. Slowly, so slowly, she reached out one thin arm. Her fingers closed around the bar. She pulled it back and held it against her chest like it was precious. "Go ahead," Taiho said. "It is for you." She took a small bite. Her eyes went wide. Taiho watched something amazing happen. For just a moment, the fear on her face disappeared. She looked surprised. Then something that was almost happiness. She ate the rest of the bar quickly, like she was afraid someone would take it away. "Good?" Taiho asked. The child looked at him. Then, very slowly, she nodded. Taiho felt his heart squeeze in his chest. This child was starving. Not just for food. For kindness. He could see it in the way she looked at him. Like she was waiting for him to hurt her. "What is your name?" He asked. The child opened her mouth. Her voice was so quiet that Taiho had to lean forward to hear it. "Lyra," she whispered. "Lyra," Taiho repeated. "That is a beautiful name." Lyra stared at him. Her mouth opened a little, like she did not know what to do with his words. "Lyra, why are you hiding in my room?" Taiho asked gently. "Are you lost?" Lyra shook her head. "Are you in trouble?" A pause. Then a small nod. Taiho's stomach tightened. "What kind of trouble? Can you tell me?" Lyra's eyes filled with water. Taiho had not known that Velith could cry. The tears rolled down her pale cheeks and dripped onto her torn clothing. "They do not want me," she whispered. "I am wrong? Wrong?" Taiho frowned. "What do you mean wrong?" But Lyra just shook her head and cried silently. She made no sound at all. Taiho realized with horror that she had learned to cry without making noise. What kind of life had this child lived? "Okay," Taiho said softly. "Okay, you do not have to tell me now. But Lyra, I have to tell the ship officers that you are here. They will be looking for you." Lyra's reaction was instant and violent. She threw herself forward and grabbed Taiho's arm with both hands. Her grip was surprisingly strong. "No," she said. It was the loudest sound she had made. "Please, they will put me back. Please do not tell them, please." Taiho looked down at her small hands on his arm. Her fingers were digging into his skin. Her whole body was shaking again. "Put you back where?" he asked. Lyra just shook her head. She would not say, but her eyes told Taiho everything he needed to know. Wherever she had come from, it was bad. Very bad. Taiho made a decision. Maybe it was the wrong decision. Maybe it would cause trouble for the diplomatic mission. But looking at this terrified child, he could not bring himself to care. "Okay," he said. "I will not tell anyone." "Not yet." Lyra looked up at him. Her tears stopped. She looked like she could not believe what she was hearing. "Really?" she whispered. "Really," Taiho said. "But we need to be careful. During the day, you have to hide. Can you do that?" Lyra nodded quickly. "I am good at hiding." Those words broke something inside Taiho. No child should be good at hiding. "I know you are," he said. "I did not find you for 3 days." Lyra almost smiled. "Almost." "Now," Taiho said, "when did you last eat real food?" "Not my snacks." "A real meal." Lyra thought about it. The fact that she had to think about it made Taiho's heart hurt. "I do not remember," she finally said. Taiho stood up. "Then we need to fix that. I will get food from the dining hall. You stay here and hide if anyone comes. Can you do that?" Lyra nodded. But when Taiho turned to leave, he felt a tug on his sleeve. He looked back. Lyra was holding onto his clothing. Her eyes were wide and scared again. "You will come back?" she asked. "You promise?" Taiho kneeled down so he was at her level. He looked into her dark eyes and spoke clearly. "I promise," he said. "I will always come back." He did not know why he said always. It was a big word, a dangerous word, but it felt right. Lyra slowly let go of his sleeve. She nodded. Taiho walked to the door. Before he left, he looked back one more time. Lyra had already moved back to her corner. She was watching him with those huge dark eyes. Something inside Taiho shifted. Something he could not name. He had come to this ship to make an alliance between humans and Velith. He had come for politics and trade routes and the future of humanity. But now, walking through the cold halls of the alien ship, Taiho could only think about one thing. A small blue girl with tears on her face, and no one to protect her. The dining hall was empty when he arrived. Good. He filled a plate with as much food as he could carry. Some of the Velith food looked strange, but he had seen the crew eating it. It would be safe. As he walked back, He passed two Velith officers in the hallway. They looked at him and his full plate of food. One of them made a sound that might have been a laugh. "The human is hungry tonight," one of them said to the other in their flat voice. "They do like to eat." Taiho smiled politely and kept walking. Let them think he was greedy. Let them think whatever they wanted. He did not care. When he got back to his quarters, Lyra was exactly where he had left her. But when she saw the food, her eyes went wide. "For me?" she asked. "For you," Taiho said. He sat on the floor across from her and placed a plate between them. Lyra looked at the food like it was a dream, like it might disappear if she touched it. "Go ahead," Taiho said. "Eat as much as you want." Lyra ate. She ate quickly at first, then slower as her stomach filled. Taiho watched her and felt something he had not felt in a long time. Purpose. Real purpose. Not diplomatic purpose. Not political purpose. Just a simple purpose of helping someone who needed help. When Lyra finished, she looked up at Taiho. Her eyes were different now. Still scared, but also something else. Trust. The beginning of trust. "Thank you," she whispered. "You are welcome," Taiho said. Outside the window, the stars moved slowly past. The ship traveled through space toward its destination. And in a small room on that ship, a human and an alien child sat together on the floor. Neither of them knew what would happen next. Neither of them knew the truth about who Lyra really was. But for now, in this moment, they were not alone. And sometimes, that is enough. The days that followed were strange and wonderful, and terrifying all at once. Taiho learned that Lyra was very good at hiding. When he left for diplomatic meetings, she would slip into a small space behind the wall panel. She had been living there before he found her. It was dark and cold, but she said it was safe. Taiho hated that she knew such places existed. When he came back, she would be waiting for him. Always in the same spot. Always watching the door with those huge dark eyes. And every time he walked through that door, something in her face changed. The fear became less. The hope became more. But Lyra would not let Taiho out of her sight for long. On the 5th day, Taiho had an important meeting with the Velith Trade Council. The meeting would last many hours. He told Lyra to stay hidden. He told her he would come back as soon as he could. Lyra nodded. She did not argue. But when Taiho looked back at her before leaving, he saw the fear in her eyes. The fear of being alone again. The meeting was long and boring. The Velith spoke in their flat voices about trade routes and cargo fees and shipping agreements. Taiho listened and took notes and tried to look interested. But his mind kept going back to Lyra. Was she okay? Was she scared? Was she hungry? He had left her food and water. He had made sure she had a blanket. But still, he worried. The meeting ended after 6 hours. Taiho's head hurt and his back was sore from sitting. He walked quickly through the ship's halls, eager to get back to his quarters. But when he turned a corner, he stopped. There, pressed against the wall about 20 steps away, was a small blue figure. Lyra. She was following him. Taiho looked around quickly. The hallway was empty for now, but anyone could come at any moment. He walked toward her, keeping his face calm. "Lyra," he whispered. "What are you doing here?" Lyra looked up at him. Her face was pale, even paler than usual. "You were gone too long," she said. Her voice was shaking. "I thought something happened. I thought you left." "I told you I would come back," Taiho said gently. "I know," Lyra whispered. "But I was scared." Taiho understood. How could he be angry? This child had been abandoned so many times that she could not believe anyone would stay. "Okay," he said. "Let us go back together. But we have to be careful." They walked through the halls. Lyra stayed close to Taiho, almost touching him. Her small hand reached out and grabbed the edge of his shirt. She held on tight. They were almost to his quarters when they heard voices. Taiho reacted without thinking. He pushed open the nearest door and pulled Lyra inside. It was a storage room, dark and full of boxes. They pressed themselves against the wall and waited. Footsteps passed outside. Two Velith officers talking in their cold voices. Taiho could not hear the words, but the tone was harsh. Lyra was shaking. Her whole body trembled against Taiho's side. He looked down at her. Her eyes were closed. Her hands were over her ears. She was breathing too fast. Taiho kneeled down and gently touched her arm. Lyra, it is okay. They are gone. Lyra did not open her eyes. She was somewhere else. Somewhere in her mind where the fear lived. Taiho did not know what to do. He had no training for this. He was a diplomat, not a father. But something told him what Lyra needed was simple. He put his arms around her. He held her gently, carefully, like she was made of glass. And he said nothing. He just held her and let her know she was not alone. Slowly, Lyra's breathing became normal. Her shaking stopped. She opened her eyes and looked at Taiho. I am sorry, she whispered. I am broken. That is what they say. I am broken. Who says that? Taiho asked. Everyone. Taiho felt anger rise in his chest. Not at Lyra. Never at Lyra. At whoever had made this child believe she was broken. You are not broken, he said firmly. Do you hear me, Lyra? There is nothing wrong with you. Lyra stared at him. She looked like she wanted to believe him, but could not. Velith do not feel fear, she said quietly. Velith do not cry. Velith do not need anyone. But I do. I feel everything. That is why I am wrong. Taiho understood now. The Velith were cold because they chose to be cold. They saw emotions as weakness. And Lyra, this small child who felt too much in a world that felt too little, was punished for being different. On Earth, Taiho said, we believe that feeling things makes us strong. Not weak. Lyra tilted her head. That is strange. Taiho laughed softly. Yes, I suppose it is. They made it back to his quarters without being seen. Taiho was relieved, but he knew they could not keep doing this. Sooner or later, someone would see Lyra. And then what? He tried not to think about it. That night, Lyra did not hide behind the wall panel. Instead, she lay on a blanket near Taiho's bed. She was close enough to reach out and touch him if she needed to. Taiho? She said in the darkness. Yes? Why are you helping me? Taiho thought about the question. It was a good question. Helping Lyra was dangerous. It could ruin his mission. It could get him in trouble with both humans and Velith. But when he looked at her, none of that mattered. Because it is the right thing to do, he said finally. Lyra was quiet for a long time. Then she said, no one has ever thought I was worth the right thing before. Taiho's heart broke a little more. Then, everyone you have met before was wrong, he said. The next day, Taiho had another meeting. This time, he did not leave Lyra behind. He knew it was a risk. A huge risk. But he could not stand the thought of her hiding alone and afraid. So he made a plan. He dressed her in a large cloak that covered most of her body. He told her to stay behind him, in his shadow, and to not make any sound. The Velith rarely looked at humans directly. They thought humans were beneath their notice. Maybe they would not look at what was behind him either. It worked. Somehow, it worked. Taiho walked through the ship with Lyra following like a ghost. She was so quiet that sometimes he forgot she was there. But when he reached back, her small hand would find his, and he would know. The diplomatic meetings continued. Trade agreements were discussed. Cultural exchanges were planned. Taiho did his job and did it well. But now he had a shadow, a small blue shadow that never left his side. The other Velith began to notice. Taiho saw them looking. He saw them whispering to each other in their flat voices. But no one said anything to him directly. One day, an older Veleth approached Taiho after a meeting. He was tall and thin, with forearms folded across his chest. His eyes were like black stones. "Human," he said, "you have something following you." Taiho's blood went cold, but he kept his face calm. "I am not sure what you mean," he said. The Veleth tilted his head. "I think you are sure. The question is why?" Taiho did not know what to say. His mind raced for an answer, for an excuse, for anything. But before he could speak, the Veleth turned and walked away. He did not call for guards. He did not raise an alarm. He just left. Taiho stood there, confused and scared. What did this mean? Was the Veleth going to report him? Was the secret out? He felt a tug on his sleeve. Lyra was looking up at him with worried eyes. "Should we run?" She whispered. Taiho shook his head. "No, there is nowhere to run. We are on their ship, surrounded by their space. Then what do we do?" Taiho looked at the empty hallway where the Veleth had disappeared. He did not know. He truly did not know. "We wait," he said finally. "And we stay together. Whatever happens, we stay together." Lyra nodded. She held his hand tighter. That night, Taiho could not sleep. He lay in his bed and stared at the ceiling and thought about what would happen next. Would the Veleth take Lyra away? Would they punish him? Would the alliance between humans and Veleth fall apart because he could not abandon one small child? He did not regret helping Lyra. He could never regret that. But he worried about what his actions might cost. Next to him, on her blanket on the floor, Lyra slept peacefully. For the first time since he had found her, she did not have nightmares. She did not wake up screaming silently. She just slept. Taiho watched her and made a promise to himself. Whatever happened tomorrow, he would protect her. He did not know how. He did not know if he could. But he would try. With everything he had, he would try. The stars moved past the window. The ship flew on through the black ocean of space. And somewhere in that ship, people were watching. People with cold eyes and secret plans. Taiho did not know it yet. But everything was about to change. The stowaway would not be a secret for much longer. And the truth, when it came, would be bigger than anything he can imagine. 2 weeks passed, and nothing happened. No guards came to Taiho's door. No one mentioned Lyra. The older Veleth who had spoken to him never approached again. It was like the whole thing had been a dream. But Taiho knew better. The Veleth were watching. He could feel their eyes on him wherever he went. He just did not know why they were not acting in those 2 weeks. Something changed between Taiho and Lyra. Something important. It started with small things. Taiho would wake up in the morning and find Lyra already awake, sitting by the window and looking at the stars. She would turn and see him and smile. A real smile. Small but real. "Good morning," she would say. "Good morning," he would answer. And that simple thing, that tiny exchange, felt like a miracle. Taiho learned about Lyra's life. Slowly, piece by piece, she told him. She had been born different. While other Veleth children were quiet and cold from birth, Lyra cried. She laughed. She wanted to be held. These things were considered defects. Her family had given her away when she was very young. She did not remember them. She was sent to a place where broken children were kept. It was not a home. It was a storage facility for unwanted things. When Lyra talked about this place, her voice became flat. Like she had to shut off her feelings just to speak the words. "They did not hurt us," she said. "Not with their hands. They just did not see us. We were invisible. We did not exist." Taiho listened and did not interrupt. He let her speak at her own pace. "I was there for a long time," Lyra continued. "Then one day, they put me on this ship. They did not tell me why. They just left me here. And that is when you started hiding in my quarters. Lyra nodded. I did not mean to come to you. I was just looking for food. Your room smelled different. Like something alive. Like something warm. She looked at her hands. I was tired of cold. Taiho reached out and took her hands in his. They were small and thin, but they were warming up. Day by day, she was warming up. You never have to be cold again, he said. Lyra looked at him. Her dark eyes searched his face. You say things like that, she said quietly, and I want to believe them. But I am scared. Scared of what? That this will end. That you will leave. That I will wake up and this will all be a dream. Taiho squeezed her hands gently. This is not a dream, he said. I am real, and I am not leaving. After that conversation, something opened in Lyra. She started to talk more. She started to ask questions about Earth, about humans, about Taiho's life. She was especially interested in the idea of families. So humans live together? She asked one evening. Parents and children in the same place? Yes, Taiho said. Usually. And the parents take care of the children? They feed them and protect them? Yes, Lyra thought about this. And the children are not sent away if they are different? Taiho's heart ached. No. Good parents love their children no matter what. They love them because of who they are, not despite it. That sounds nice, Lyra said softly. That sounds very nice. Taiho started teaching her things. Small things at first. Words in Korean that he remembered from his grandmother. Songs that humans sang to their children. Games that could be played with just hands and imagination. Lyra learned fast. She was hungry for knowledge, hungry for connection. Every new thing Taiho taught her made her eyes light up. One day, he taught her how to make a paper bird. He had saved some documents from a meeting, and he used the paper to fold a small crane. What is it? Lyra asked, amazed. A bird, Taiho said. They fly on Earth, through the sky. Lyra held the paper crane like it was precious. She moved it through the air, making it dance. On Earth, there's an old story, Taiho said. If you fold 1,000 of these, you can make a wish. 1,000? Lyra's eyes went wide. That is many. Yes, but good things take time. Lyra looked at the crane. Then she looked at Taiho. Can I make a wish with just one? She asked. I do not see why not. Lyra closed her eyes tight. Her lips moved silently. Then she opened her eyes and smiled. What did you wish for? Taiho asked. Lyra shook her head. I cannot tell you. Then it will not come true. Taiho laughed. It was the first time he had truly laughed since boarding this ship. The sound surprised him. It surprised Lyra too. She stared at him with her mouth open. What was that? She asked. A laugh. You have never heard one? Lyra shook her head slowly. Taiho felt sadness wash over him. A child who had never heard laughter. What kind of world was this? Velith do not laugh, Lyra explained. They think it is pointless. On Earth, we think laughter is one of the best things in the world. It means happiness. Lyra considered this. Then she tried to laugh. The sound that came out was strange and uncertain, like she was speaking a language she had never learned. But she was trying. She was trying so hard. Taiho smiled at her. That was good. Really? Really. You will get better with practice. The diplomatic meetings continued. Taiho brought Lyra with him now, hidden under her cloak. No one stopped them. No one said anything. But the Velith were definitely watching. One afternoon, during a break in negotiations, a Velith female approached Taiho. She was older than the others, with silver marks on her blue skin. Her forearms were crossed, and her eyes were unreadable. You are the human ambassador, she said. It was not a question. I am, Taiho replied. Your species is interesting. The female tilted her head, studying him. You carry something with you. Something small. Taiho's heart beat faster, but he kept his face calm. I do not know what you mean. Yes, you do. The female's voice did not change. No anger, no threat. Just observation. The question is not whether we know. The question is why you care. She walked away before Taiho could respond. That night, Taiho told Lyra about the conversation. He expected her to be scared. Instead, she was quiet for a long time. They are testing you, she finally said. Testing me? What do you mean? Lyra looked out the window at the stars. I do not know exactly, but I feel it. Something is happening. Something I do not understand. Taiho felt a chill run down his spine. There was something strange in Lyra's voice. Like she knew more than she was saying. Or maybe more than she knew she knew. Whatever happens, he said, we face it together. Lyra turned to him. Her dark eyes were shining. Together, she repeated. I like that word. Me too. The days grew shorter as the ship approached its destination. Taiho learned they were heading to the Velith homeworld. That was where the final negotiations would happen. That was where the alliance would be decided. He also learned something else. Something that made his blood run cold. The queen would be there. Queen Vera, ruler of the Velith Empire. The most powerful being in this sector of the galaxy. She never met with outsiders. She never showed herself to other species, but she was making an exception for humans. Taiho did not know if this was good or bad. He did not know anything anymore. All he knew was that he had a small blue girl who trusted him, and he would do anything to keep her safe. On the last night before they reached the homeworld, Lyra came to Taiho with something in her hands. It was the paper crane. She had kept it all this time. Taiho, she said quietly, I want to tell you my wish now. You do not have to. You said it will not come true if you tell. I know. Lyra looked at the crane. But I want you to know anyway. She held the paper bird up to the light. Her eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. I wish that you would be my family, she said. I wish that no matter what happens, you would not leave me behind. I wished. Her voice broke. I wished I could stay with you forever. Taiho felt something break open in his chest. Something he had been trying to hold together for weeks. His eyes burned with tears of his own. He kneeled down and took Lyra's face in his hands. That is my wish too, he said. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever the Queen says, whatever anyone says, you are not alone anymore. Do you understand? You will never be alone again. Lyra threw her arms around his neck and held on tight. She was crying now, really crying, with sound and breath and all the emotion she had been taught to hide. And Taiho held her and let her cry. Because sometimes that is what family does. They hold each other through the storm and promise to stay. Outside, the Velith homeworld grew larger in the window. It was blue and cold, like everything Velith. But inside that small room, there was warmth. There was love. There was hope. Tomorrow would bring the truth. Tomorrow would bring the Queen. Tomorrow would change everything. But tonight, a human and an alien child held on to each other and believed that somehow everything would be okay. The Velith homeworld was exactly what Taiho had expected. Cold, beautiful, completely without warmth. The cities were made of crystal that glowed with pale blue light. The buildings rose like frozen waterfalls, sharp and perfect. There were no plants, no animals, no color, except blue and white and silver. It was like walking through a dream made of ice. Lyra pressed close to Taiho as they walked through the capital. She was still hidden under her cloak, but her hand gripped his tightly. I have never been here before, she whispered. It is beautiful. It is, Taiho agreed. But he thought to himself that beauty without warmth was just another kind of empty. They were led to the royal palace. It was the largest structure in the city, a mountain of crystal that caught the light of the distant sun. Guards stood at every entrance. They were tall and silent, with 4 arms and eyes like black glass. Taiho expected to go to a meeting room. He expected more trade negotiations, more diplomatic discussions, more boring talks about cargo fees and shipping routes. Instead, they were taken to a throne room. The room was vast. The ceiling was so high that Taiho could barely see it. The floor was polished crystal that reflected everything like a mirror. And at the far end, on a throne that seemed to grow from the floor itself, sat the queen. Queen Vera was unlike any Velith Taiho had seen. She was taller than the others, with skin that was almost white. Her 4 arms were draped with silver cloth, and her eyes were not black like the others. They were pale gold, like captured stars. She was beautiful in a way that made Taiho's breath catch. But there was something in those golden eyes that made him afraid. Power. Ancient and absolute power. The guards stopped Taiho in the center of the room. He was alone. The other diplomats had been left behind. It was just him and the queen, and Lyra hidden behind him. "Ambassador Taiho of Earth," the queen said. Her voice echoed through the vast room. It was cold, but somehow musical, like wind through frozen trees. "Welcome to my world." Taiho bowed deeply. "Your Majesty, it is an honor." "Is it?" The queen tilted her head. Her golden eyes studied him like he was a puzzle she was trying to solve. "You humans use that word easily. Honor. Do you know what it means to the Velith?" "I hope to learn," Taiho said carefully. The queen smiled. It was a small smile, but it sent chills down Toho's spine. "You have already been learning," she said. "More than you know." She raised one of her hands and gestured. Immediately, the guards moved aside. From a side door, the old Velith female walked in. The one who had questioned Taiho on the ship. "This is Advisor Salaith," the queen said. "She has been watching you since you came aboard our vessel." Taiho's stomach dropped. They had known. They had known everything from the start. "You seem surprised," the queen observed. "Did you think we did not notice the small one hiding in your shadow?" Taiho's mouth went dry. His heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, to grab Lyra and flee, but there was nowhere to go. "Your Majesty," he began, but the queen raised a hand to silence him. "Do not speak yet. First, I want to show you something." She stood from her throne and walked toward Taiho. Each step was slow and deliberate. Remove the cloak from the child. Taiho did not move. His body refused to obey. The queen stopped in front of him. Up close, she was even more imposing. She looked down at the small figure hiding behind Taiho. "Child," she said, her voice softer now. "Come out. Let me see you." Lyra's hand tightened on Taiho's shirt. She was shaking. Taiho made a decision. He turned and kneeled down to Lyra. He gently removed the hood of her cloak. Her pale face looked up at him, terrified. "It is okay," he whispered. "I am here. I will not let anything happen to you." Lyra nodded. She took a deep breath and stepped out from behind Taiho. The queen looked at her for a long moment. Her golden eyes moved over Lyra's face, her thin body, her 2 arms, her obvious differences from other Velith. "Yes," the queen said quietly. "It is her." Taiho frowned. "What do you mean?" "You know who she is?" The queen looked at him with something that might have been amusement. "Of course I know who she is. I should know my own daughter." The words hit Taiho like a physical blow. He stared at the queen, unable to speak, unable to think, unable to process what he had just heard. "Your daughter?" he finally managed. "Lyra," the queen said, turning to the girl. "Named for the first star that appeared when she was born. My 4th child." My only child born with a condition that the Veleth consider a defect. Lyra was frozen. She stared at the queen with eyes full of confusion and pain. You are my mother? She whispered. I am. Then why? Lyra's voice cracked. Why did you send me away? Why did you throw me out like garbage? Why did no one want me? The queen's face did not change. Her expression remained calm and cold. Because that is the Veleth way, she said simply. Children who show emotion are considered weak. They cannot lead. They cannot serve. They have no place in our society. I did what was expected of me as queen. Taiho felt rage building in his chest. Hot, burning rage. You abandoned your own child, he said, his voice shaking with anger. You threw her away because she could feel things, because she was kind, because she was alive. The queen looked at him. Yes, that is not strength. That is cowardice. The room went silent. The guards shifted, their hands moving toward weapons. Advisor Saleth stepped forward with alarm on her face, but the queen raised a hand and everyone stopped. You dare speak to me this way? She asked Taiho. In my own palace? In front of my guards? Taiho stood tall. He was scared. More scared than he had ever been in his life. But he looked at Lyra's face, at the tears running down her cheeks, and he did not care about the consequences. I dare, he said, because someone has to. Your daughter is not defective. She's not broken. She's the most brave and kind person I have ever met. And you threw her away because you were too afraid to love her. The queen stared at him for a long moment. The silence stretched on and on. Taiho waited for the order that would end his life. But instead, the queen did something unexpected. She laughed. It was a small sound, barely more than a breath. But it was definitely a laugh. Advisor Saleth, the queen said, still looking at Taiho. You were right. The old female nodded. I told you, my queen. The humans are different. The queen walked slowly around Taiho, studying him from all angles. For 300 years, we have watched humanity from afar. We have seen your wars, your cruelty, your destruction. We thought you were just another violent species, destined to burn itself out. She stopped in front of him. But we also saw something else. Compassion. Love. The willingness to fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Taiho did not understand. What are you saying? I am saying that this was a test, Ambassador. All of it. From the beginning. Taiho's mind reeled. A test? Lyra's suffering was a test? Her suffering was real. That I regret. The queen's voice softened slightly. But her placement on your ship was intentional. We wanted to see what a human would do when faced with a helpless child. Would you ignore her? Report her? Use her for your own purposes? And instead, you loved her. The queen shook her head slowly. You risked your mission, your career, your life to protect a child who was not even your species. You treated her like she mattered. You treated her like family. Lyra was crying now. Soft, quiet tears running down her face. Taiho wanted to go to her, but he could not move. The Veleth believe that emotions are weakness, the queen continued. But I have always wondered if we were wrong. If perhaps the humans knew something we had forgotten. She looked at Lyra with an expression Taiho could not read. Looking at my daughter now, seeing how she has changed since meeting you, I believe I have my answer. The queen turned and walked back toward her throne. When she reached it, she did not sit. She stood beside it and faced Taiho and Lyra. The alliance between humans and Veleth will proceed, she announced. You have proven your species worthy. She paused. But there is one more matter to settle. She looked directly at Lyra. My daughter, whom I abandoned, whom I failed. For the first time, emotion flickered across the queen's face. Something that looked almost like regret. I cannot undo what was done. I cannot give her back the years that were stolen, but I can do one thing. She turned to Taiho. You love this child. She loves you. I have watched you together. I have seen what you have given her. The queen raised her chin. I am giving her to you? Taiho blinked. What? Lyra is no longer a child of the Velith Empire. She is no longer bound by our laws or our cruelty. She is yours, Ambassador, if you will have her. Taiho could not believe what he was hearing. He looked at Lyra. She was staring at him with hope and fear and love all mixed together in her dark eyes. She is not property to be given, Taiho said carefully. She is a person. She should choose for herself. The queen nodded slowly. A human response. And the correct one. She looked at Lyra. Child. Daughter. What do you choose? Lyra did not hesitate. She ran to Taiho and threw her arms around him. She held on like she would never let go. I choose him, she said into his chest. I choose Taiho. I choose my family. Taiho wrapped his arms around her and held her tight. Tears ran down his face. He did not try to stop them. Then it is done, the queen said. She is yours. The ceremony was over. The test was passed. The alliance was made. But for Taiho and Lyra, the real victory was much simpler. They had found each other, and they would never be alone again. The days that followed the queen's announcement were strange and busy. Taiho had to fill out many documents. Papers that said Lyra was now under his care. Papers that made their bond official in the eyes of both Velith and human law. He had never read so much legal writing in his life, but every time he felt tired, he would look at Lyra sitting beside him, and the exhaustion would fade away. She was different now. Not completely changed, but growing. The fear in her eyes was slowly being replaced by curiosity. The silence was being filled with words and questions, and sometimes even laughter, real laughter. The kind that came from deep inside. She was learning. The Velith treated them differently now. Word had spread about what happened in the throne room. About the human who stood up to the queen. About the defective princess who chose love over lineage. Some Velith looked at them with confusion. Others with something that might have been respect. A few even nodded at Taiho when he passed, which was apparently a great honor. Advisor. Saleith came to visit them before they left for Earth. She stood in the doorway of their quarters and looked at Lyra with her ancient eyes. For a long moment, no one spoke. I was wrong about many things, Saleith finally said. I watched you suffer, child, and I did nothing. I told myself it was for the greater good, that the test was necessary. She bowed her head. I am sorry. Lyra looked at the old female. Taiho could not read her expression. I do not forgive you, Lyra said quietly. Not yet? Maybe not ever. But I understand why you did it. Saleith nodded. That is more than I deserve. She turned to leave, but stopped at the door. The queen wanted me to give you something, she said. She reached into her robe and pulled out a small object. It was a crystal, pale blue, and glowing softly. It belonged to Lyra's grandmother. The queen kept it hidden for many years. She said that Lyra should have something from her family. Her Velith family. Saleith placed the crystal on the table and left without another word. Lyra picked up the crystal and held it to the light. It sparkled and shimmered, casting tiny rainbows across the walls. It is beautiful, she said softly. It is, Taiho agreed. I do not know how to feel, Lyra admitted. The queen gave me away. She let me suffer. But now she gives me this. It makes me confused. Taiho sat down beside her. That is okay. You do not have to decide how to feel right now. Some things take time, like folding 1,000 cranes. Taiho smiled. Exactly like that. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. Taiho spent the time teaching Lyra about human culture. He showed her pictures of Earth, the blue oceans that were different from Velith blue, the green forests that she had never seen before, the cities full of noise and color and life. "It looks chaotic," Lyra said, studying a picture of a busy street in Seoul. "It is," Taiho admitted. "But good chaos. Happy chaos." "I want to see it," Lyra said, her eyes shining. "I want to see everything." "You will. I promise." As they got closer to Earth, Lyra got more excited. But she also got more nervous. Taiho noticed the way she sometimes stopped talking in the middle of a sentence. The way she would look at him like she was checking to make sure he was still there. One night, she came to him with tears in her eyes. "What if they do not like me?" she asked. "The humans on Earth? What if they think I am strange? What if they want to send me away?" Taiho pulled her into a hug. "Listen to me," he said. "Earth is not perfect. Humans can be cruel sometimes. They can be scared of things they do not understand." He pulled back and looked into her eyes. "But they can also be kind. They can learn to accept. They can love." "How do you know?" "Because I am human. And I love you." Lyra's tears came faster. "You are the first person who ever said that to me. I will not be the last," Taiho promised. "You will have so many people who love you. Family, friends, people who will see you for who you really are." "Who am I?" Lyra asked. "I do not even know anymore. I am not really Velith. I am not really human. What am I?" Taiho thought about this. It was a big question. An important question. "You are Lyra," he finally said. "You are kind and brave and strong. You are a survivor. You are someone who feels deeply in a universe that often tells us not to feel. And most importantly, you are my daughter now. That is who you are." Lyra stared at him. Then a smile spread across her face. A real smile. The biggest one he had ever seen from her. "Daughter," she repeated, like she was tasting the word. "I like that. I like it too." Earth appeared in the window 3 days later. Lyra pressed her face against the glass and watched it grow larger and larger. Blue and green and white. Alive. Beautiful. "It looks like a jewel," she whispered. "It is my home," Taiho said. He put his hand on her shoulder. "Our home now." The landing was smooth. The doors opened, and for the first time in her life, Lyra breathed the earth air. She looked around with wonder at everything. The sky, the clouds, the grass growing near the landing pad, the warm sun on her pale blue skin. "It is warm," she said, amazed. "Everything is warm." A small group of people waited nearby. Diplomats, officials, and among them, an elderly woman with gray hair and kind eyes. Taiho's mother. He had sent her a message during the journey. He had told her everything. About Lyra, about what happened, about the daughter he was bringing home. She had written back only 3 words. Bring her home. Now she walked toward them with open arms. She stopped in front of Lyra and looked at her with tears in her eyes. "So you are Lyra," she said gently. "My son has told me so much about you." Lyra looked nervous. She glanced at Taiho for help. "Lyra," Taiho said, "this is my mother. Your grandmother now." The old woman kneeled down so she was at Lyra's level. "I know I am a stranger," she said. "I know this must all be very scary. But I want you to know something. In our family, we do not care where someone comes from. We only care about who they are. And from what I hear, you are someone very special." Lyra's lower lip trembled. "I am defective. That is what they said." The old woman shook her head firmly. "You are different. That is not the same as defective. Different is good. Different is what makes us interesting." She smiled warmly. "And besides, our family has always been a little different. You will fit right in." She opened her arms. Lyra hesitated. Then, slowly, she stepped forward and let the old woman hug her. Tayo watched with tears in his eyes. His mother held Lyra gently and patted her back and whispered soft words that he could not hear. When they finally separated, Lyra was crying, but she was also smiling. "Welcome home, little one," the old woman said. "Welcome to your family." That night, they sat together in Taiho's mother's house. They ate human food that Lyra had never tasted before. They talked and laughed and shared stories. Lyra fell asleep on the couch with her head on Taiho's shoulder. The grandmother's crystal glowed softly in her hands. Taiho's mother looked at the sleeping girl with soft eyes. "You did a good thing, my son," she said quietly. "You saved her." Taiho shook his head. "She saved me too. I did not know I was lost until I found her." His mother smiled and patted his hand. Outside, the stars came out one by one. Somewhere up there, far away, was the Velith homeworld. The place where Lyra was born. The place where she was abandoned and forgotten. But she was not there anymore. She was here. On Earth, in a warm house full of love. She was home. And in her dreams, she was not hiding in dark corners. She was not scared and alone. She was running through green fields under a blue sky. Laughing with joy. Her paper crane sat on the bedside table, a little warm but still flying. One wish. One crane. And sometimes, that is enough to change everything. Taiho looked at his daughter, asleep and peaceful and finally safe. He had come to that ship looking for a trade alliance. He had found something far more valuable. He had found his family. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.